Okay guys, so what we're going to be looking at in this video is the United States and our relationships with China and with Japan. Now, we dealt with China and we realized that these East Asian countries were a great opportunity because the only thing that separated us from them was the Pacific Ocean. And after the acquisition of some of these Pacific territories, after the Spanish-American War, trade with them became even more possible. So in China, what was happening was there were a lot of European countries that had already kind of sliced it up and taken control of these certain areas for business purposes. These areas were known as spheres of influence. So these countries were specifically influencing certain parts of China. Now the Americans, we didn't have a slice of this. Okay, what we did have was trade with them. And after some time, our Secretary of State, John Hay, realized that the more and more countries that came into China and were carving it up, the more opportunity that there might be to kick the Americans out of the trading atmosphere there. And so he wanted to make sure that all American interests and business was protected in China. And he felt like this Asian relationship was vital for our new industry in America. So this is what he decided to do. He decided to create what is known as the open door policy, which pretty much means that anybody could go into China and have trading rights. It gave equal trading rights to all foreign nations, and this happened in 1899. If you notice, that's the year after the Spanish-American War, after the Americans had proved their dominance. So he sent notes to all the other powers and declared that this policy would be in effect. In China, another thing that was happening was the people that were living there were not completely happy with all of the Western influence that was coming into their country. They did have a problem with the types of things that were being imported, whether it be drugs, because there were opium packages being delivered to China. There was also a new Christian influence that was coming in that particularly the Boxers were against. Now, the Boxers were a group of Chinese men that opposed Western influence. And they had a very brutal rebellion against these Western influences. So that was the Boxer Rebellion. They fought any foreigner in China. It was pretty bloody, and with the help of American military might, these Western powers were able to defeat and take down the Boxer Rebellion. Now, Japan had largely been isolationist, and it wasn't until isolationist means they were isolated, meaning they pretty much dealt with themselves. They didn't deal with outside powers. But that all changed in 1853 when Commodore Matthew Perry landed there with some gunships. And over some times by the 1890s, Japan had largely adopted many Western policies having to do with industry. They became a very strong Asian power, so much so that they started using some imperial practices and defeated China, not only China, but Russia in the Russo-Japanese War. They came out as a really, really strong power. The thing that ended the war was the Treaty of Portsmouth, and what assisted that was our very own president, President Roosevelt. He helped them come to an agreement. The Russians and the Japanese came to an agreement with President Roosevelt's help. And because of his assistance in creating this agreement and creating this peace, he received the Nobel Peace Prize because of his assistance in ending the Russo-Japanese conflict. All right, so that's the end of our video, and the next time you get a video, it'll be about America in the Caribbean. Don't forget to take notes. Have a good day, and if you have any questions, please, please, please ask me for clarification. See you in class.